What are you doing in 1 hour? Drizzly, you're getting your favorite beer, wine, and spirits delivered right to your door from Drizzly. Drizzly is the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits, with delivery to your doorstep in under 60 minutes. Right now, Drizzly is giving new customers $5 off their first order with code FAST5. Go download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com and use promo code FAST5 for $5 off your first order. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor. Just open the app, find what you want, and it's at your door in under 60 minutes. Drizzly also lets you shop from multiple stores in your area and compare prices on thousands of products. Right now, Drizzly is giving new customers $5 off their first order with code FAST5. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com and use code FAST5 for $5 off your first order.
Three, two, one.
This is Chargers Unleashed podcast. Here are your hosts, Dan Wolkenstein and Jake Hefner. Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Today's show, of course, being brought to you by UFC Fit and Temecula, Golden Road Brewery, Charger Bolt Family, Tick Pick, and Bet Online. Dan Wolkenstein, we are less than 2 weeks away, sir. We are 10 days. We are in the home stretch. The draft is literally at the tips of our fingers. It is almost here, for the love of God, before I check myself into an insane asylum with all of this draft news that is going down. The hype is real. Everybody's geared up. Want to thank everybody real quick who's joining us live on the show and in the chat room for our live Q&A session tonight. All around, of course, everything draft related as it pertains to the Los Angeles Chargers. Dan Wolkenstein, happy Monday to you, sir. How are you?
Happy Monday to you, Jake. We are, 10 days? 10 days away from the draft? Woo-wee. Guys, welcome. Gals, welcome to Chargers Unleashed live. As we mentioned in the chat, anyone who has any questions, comments, concerns, topics they'd like to discuss, leave them in the comment section here. We will be doing all of this live as we go. Thank you guys so much for joining. We've got some questions that we've gotten from a few different channels that we'll go ahead and discuss here. Got some from Instagram, some from Facebook, some of the voicemail. And then obviously we'll have everyone that's coming to us live. So, Jake, I am doing great. I feel like we're all in this point now where everyone's kind of freaking out about all the news that is or is not coming out. It's lying season. How are you?
You know, it's weird how the news changes on a day-to-day basis. I think I've read more than enough of my fair share of mock drafts to have a good idea as far as who should be available and who's not going to be available and who I have my fingers crossed for and who I know the pulse of the Chargers fandom has their fingers crossed for. But we're going to get into that a little bit because I woke up, it's a typical type of Monday where you really just don't feel that good about anything. And especially when I started thinking about a certain draft scenario for the Chargers here, it didn't put me in the best mood. So we're going to discuss that in just a little bit. But before we get started, because I want to spend as much time as we can with everybody's questions and talking a little Chargers powwow here, I want to remind everybody that our show today is, of course, being brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info and odds. Find all the latest developments, including everything for this week's NBA playoffs, as well as the Major League Baseball season as it is now in full effect. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so join today. Just enter the promo code BLEAV, BELIEVE, and learn why everyone is saying BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on popular sports and games. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Woo, Jake, you're batting 1,000 on these live episodes where you get the ad reads done. I'm impressed, my friend.
It's almost like I had it right in front of me.
I'm impressed. You're a great reader.
Thank you.
Jake, for folks who haven't been out there, have you guys seen the draft hats that they are going to be having? Have you seen them live? Like, have you seen it in person? Not just on a picture. I've seen it in person.
I have not seen it in person.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. In person, these hats are sick. They look different in person than they do on a picture, but highly recommend to see all of the draft picks wearing these as we see them in a few short days. A few things coming up, Jake. It's going to be fun. Guys, we're going to be having some special guests upcoming as we have the Chargers offseason officially starting. You're starting to see people coming into the building, got workouts planned, so some fun things in store. Guys, all right, here we go. Quick shout out, folks who are already saying hello. Ross Ackerman, yo, thank you for coming on. Jake, are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Asks Ross Ackerman.
Who is he saying that to? Me, or is he saying that to you? I can't tell.
I might be ignorant here, but I don't know what that's about.
If it is Mr. Krabs, out of the two of us, I tend to be more on the pessimistic side, so that may be me. But who knows? If this is about money, Dan, it may be you. Who knows? It may be happy. So
let's go. Joe Fernandez, shout out. 10 more days. Let's see what he says. 10 days. Let's go. Good to see our Bolts back in the building. Love the dad hat, Dan. Hashtag flat bills matter too. Jake, someone decided to rip me for wearing a flat hat a week ago, saying like, oh, I forget exactly what he said, but basically like, I can't believe an adult's wearing a flat hat. And I was like, since when does a flat hat matter? So yes, flat hats matter too.
This is look, everybody makes the fashion statement in their own way.
It's ridiculous.
I wear a flat bill and I'm almost 40. And guess what? I don't care.
But you are beautiful, Jake. Thank you, Joe. Jacob Rar, yo. All right, Jake, let's get right into this. So questions and topics. First question, or it's probably more of a topic, came in from Instagram. Let me go ahead and pull this thing up. Let's see. Pardon me while we're doing this live. We've got a question in from, I believe it's Gotham Anatha, who asks, do we have a chance to draft Jordan Davis? So that's a two-part question. Okay. What are the chances that he'll be there? And two, if he's there, how would we not take him?
I give it I give it a 15% chance that he's there.
15.
I just think you see this every single combine when guys like this that are this just the measurables and this type of freak athleticism, it always just skyrockets their status. It was the same thing when Von Miller was coming out in the draft. A lot of mock drafts in December had the Chargers taking Von Miller. I forget where they were picking that year, but a lot of them had him taking him. And then he went out and he did his combine and his pro days. And of course, that is what skyrocketed him all the way to the second overall pick. Same thing happened with Dontari Poe. Dontari Poe, similar position to Jordan Davis way back in the day. Physical freak, went out and performed very, very well at the combine. So as much as we like to say, stick to the tape, the numbers and aren't everything, when you get situations like this and guys that are just built like this, and then you see the way that they can move, the way that Jordan Davis moves, it just defies belief. It doesn't make any sense. And so when you can get that type of freak athleticism, you know that a lot of teams ahead of you are going to covet that. So yeah, I put it at 15%. If he's there, if he's there, I would be shocked to know who the hell else is still on the board at that point in time, if he actually makes it that far. But yeah, I've been pounding the table for a long time for Jordan Davis to be the pick. A lot of people have been talking about Jordan Davis being the selection for quite a while now. And honestly, Dan, just to steal a line from you, think of the euphoria if you were to combine him with Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson. And that is basically the middle of your line with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on either side. That's something to think about.
Imagine the euphoria. Jake, that would be great. Okay, so then the other question would be, if Jordan Davis is available, I know this is a pipe dream scenario, but if he's available, who would have to be also available for you to pass on Jordan Davis to go for X guy? Like, would it be a Charles Cross? Would it be a Jameson Williams? Would it be who would have to be there that you would pick over him?
I think if either or Charles Cross or Jameson Williams, I'd probably have to say that that's a big, big case to make. Charles Cross would probably be the biggest. And as we were discussing last week, Dan, the line, I'm not sure if it has shifted since last week, but the line last week over under Charles Cross going by 7.5. So by pick 7, over or under, essentially, that he's going to be gone, over or under that. That's what Vegas has on the line for him. And a lot of mock drafts that I've heard, aside from Charles Davis's mock draft today, which kind of gave you hope that some luck may fall in the Chargers' favor.
Who did he have?
He had them taking Charles Cross at 17. And of course, the first sentence he says is, the Chargers are rattled by their luck that Charles Cross fell to them at 17, which is exactly what we would all feel. But this would be another one of those Rashawn Slater, Derwin James type scenarios if he ends up getting that far. I just don't see it, given the way that it looks like the offensive line group, especially the ones that are in the top, are going to be very coveted at the early part of this draft.
For sure. Yeah, I think I would agree. Jameson Williams, I would take over him just because I'm sure we're going to get into this as we get some other questions coming in. But he'd be so fun. And then, man, Charles Cross, like, yes, please. Stingley would be tempting too. Okay, moving on. Aaron Fuller comes in. Bolt up. Can't wait for this draft to start. You and me and Jake and, the four. I guess there's one more Chargers fan in the entire world. The four of us Chargers fans are so excited. 10 more days. Next question, Jake. We're going in from the chat here. We're just going to start off guns blazing. So I'm not going to mention the name. For those who are watching live, you can see the name. For those who are listening, maybe Jake will say it so you can chime in. I have gotten crucified for saying this name one too many times recently. Jacob would like to know our thoughts on Schmever Schmenning that is in this, or possibly someone that rhymes with that name in this draft. What are your thoughts on he who shall not be named for half the Chargers community? Half of them love him. Half of them hate him.
This is like one of those, it almost kind of feels like the Justin Herbert pick before Justin Herbert was selected type thing, where it was kind of split down the middle. You had this group of people that really were all over him, and then people who were kind of against it because there were people that favored Tua before the draft, or in our case, we favored Isaiah Simmons that year, or whatever it was. There was different guys that we were looking at that year. But look, here's what I'll say about Trevor Penning, and this is what I was getting into when it comes to what was disappointing me about this Monday. So yes, did I have Trevor Penning as my OT4? Yes, I did in our draft rankings that we put up last week. But it's a significant drop. Then once you get outside of the top three, and Ike Ekwamu, Evan Neal, and Charles Cross, it's a significant drop into that next tier of guys. Now, the problem that I have with is that everybody is all about the nastiness of Trevor Penning. And everybody kind of goes back to the Senior Bowl clips where he's pancaking dudes. And the problem is they're not really looking at the full picture of that. Because if you go back and you can find it, that full sequence of that practice, the only reason that it gets that bad with Trevor Penning pancaking it is because that defender beat him horribly the previous snap. So there is a lot of emotion that Trevor Penning plays with, which isn't always the worst thing when it comes to an offensive lineman. But when you see 30-plus penalties over the last 3 years, Dan, 16 alone last year through 12 games, 5 of them being personal foul calls, the equivalent of what those penalties can do to a drive are just completely demoralizing. So do I think that he has the athletic capability to come in and play right tackle? No question about it. He's actually one of the more athletic guys for being someone that's of his stature. Do I think that he could fix the little things as far as technical prowess? I'll give him that. He's training with Duke Manyweather right now, and we all know his his draft picks along with Rashawn Slater that he has taught throughout his tenure. So that's the results have been pretty good. But damn, can you teach someone to play without that type of emotion? I just don't know. And on top of everything, where I value him, 17 is just way too rich for my blood. So this would have to be one of those last ditch scenarios. Like, I mean, obviously, if it was me, I'd be making all the calls I can to trade back. Here was the thing that I woke up on this Monday, and this is what I was, and this relates to Trevor Penning, and I'll get into this. I don't know what it was that hit me that made me think of 2013. 2013 was a very different draft class as far as the positions that were coveted. This in 2013, if you recall, Dan, there was a very highly coveted draft for offensive linemen, both tackle and guards alike. So the Chargers in 2013, they picked 11th. And before they got to their selection at 11, 5 offensive linemen went off the board. You had Eric Fisher, you had Luke Jokel, you had Lane Johnson, you had Jonathan Cooper, and you had Chance Warmack. 3 tackles, 2 guards. I do not want to be in a position where the Chargers reach again for offensive tackle 4. And for some reason, obviously just because it's out there so much right now in the mock draft world, I just have this sense that the football gods are going to either make it really close or we're going to be on the clock and Trevor Penning is going to be sitting there, Dan, and we're going to have about 5 good minutes of a majority of Chargers fans sweating from their heads, possibly a little bit of pee coming down their pants, just in anticipation
visual
of what's going to happen. And I got to tell you, it terrifies the shit out of me.
Okay, hold on. So a couple things. One, Craig Smith is trying to help you by helping me and saving me from myself. And for the record, okay, I'm going to set the record straight here. I do think Trevor Penning has a chance to be a very good NFL offensive tackle. And I think him paired alongside Rashawn Slater, I think would be a good pairing. And anyone who is saying like, oh, Trevor Penning sucks, like, okay, pump the brakes a little bit here. Like, I think there's a difference between Trevor Penning at 17 sucks and Trevor Penning sucks. And I can understand the argument behind wanting some other guys ahead of him. But let's not go too far. Like, are there things that he needs to work on to kind of reel in his craziness and reel in some of that nastiness and reel in some of that after the whistle stuff and maybe some of the holding technique type stuff? Sure. We all can see that. But does he have elite traits? We also can see that. So just calm it down a little bit. And Herbalist says,
Herbalist.
I think Herbalist.
Herbalist.
Oh, you're right, Herbalist. I always say that wrong. Thanks for coming in, by the way. Trevor Penny could be good, but I don't know if he's worthy of a 17th pick. Almost feels like settling if Cross goes just before the Chargers. And again, depending on how the board fell, which we can kind of get into a little bit here, like it could be a reach. But I think what we'll start to kind of talk about here in a bit, what would you rather reach for? Or should you reach, regardless? Like, for example, let's say offensive tackle 1, 2, 3 are gone. And let's say the wide receivers you like are gone. Let's say Jordan Davis is gone and you've got the corners are gone, the top 2 or 3. Like, what's next? If you're not trading back, like, would you rather, quote unquote, reach for the wide receiver that you didn't want at first? Would you reach for the offensive line?
Well,
off the tackle, maybe you go into your offensive line one. Like, what would you do?
First off, the wide receiver class in this circumstance, because remember, you're not looking for your wide receiver one. It's not like the Chargers have 0 weapons. You're looking for a third guy to come in and complement Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and obviously with Josh Palmer in the mix as well. But to come in, complement, add another weapon for Justin Herbert, and eventually, hopefully, grow moving forward. But Dan, if it was me and that type of scenario that you've played out, obviously the first thing that I've been doing is I'm going to be doing the same thing that I've been wanting for 20 years. And the very first thing is looking to trade down, get some value. Not only do that, if I move back into the mid-20s, acquire an extra second-round pick so that I know that I'm going to have a little bit more flexibility, don't have to sit there and wait while the rest of the teams in my division get to make 1 or 2 picks as the Chiefs have in virtually 4 rounds of this draft. It's just disgusting, their draft capital that they have this year. But you don't want to have to wait and pray that someone that you really like in the 3rd round is going to land there. So if it were me, yes, the first thing I'm doing is I'm working the phones, try to see if I can acquire a second-round pick and see how the board falls to me at that point to see if the value matches up a little bit better. But if I don't get that opportunity, if someone's not willing to make that type of a trade with me, then Dan, Zion Johnson. I would not mind Zion Johnson at 17. And we've talked about this, and anybody that's been listening to Daniel Popper about the possibilities of what could still be taking place. Yes, I know that I want as much continuity along the offensive line as anybody else does for Justin Herbert. But Matt Filer has experience playing right tackle. You move him over to right tackle. You could, in this particular scenario, you put Zion Johnson next to Rashawn Slater, next to Corey Linsley, which that's badass enough. And then, of course, the reports out there from Daniel Popper is that there is a very high possibility that the Chargers are still interested in bringing Ode Abushi back. I definitely hope he does, because when he was healthy, he was more than a serviceable offensive line for us last year. So if you were to bring him back, and apparently the word is that there will not be a move done until after the draft. If that is your offensive line left to right, Dan, Slater, Johnson, Linsley, Abushi, and Filer, that's just a backdoor solution. And that doesn't sound too bad to me.
No, I would gladly take that. Let's go through a couple of the people that are here saying hello to us. Chris Eilis. I'm terrible with last names. I apologize if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Hey, Bolt fam. Shout out. Hello. Craig Smith asks, does Trevor Penning remind you of DJ Fluker?
Hey, kiddo. How was the hill? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, that ripping pow induces spontaneous joy.
The Icon Pass lets you do you at 50 destinations worldwide from $249 adult. Drop in for next winter now and save at iconpass.com.
DJ Fluker, from the standpoint that I was making as far as the reach goes, DJ Fluker that year in 2013 was the 4th offensive tackle taken. In this circumstance, for a lot of people, Trevor Penning may be the 4th offensive tackle taken wherever he goes. But from a standpoint of nastiness, no, because DJ Fluker was just the nicest guy in the planet. I never really saw a big time nasty streak other than maybe one time or two. But just the technical aspects of it, Dan, there's still some things that he has to work on. Yes, he's athletic from Penning's standpoint, and I could see those similarities from Fluker. But if I could have gotten the nasty streak from Penning, maybe with Fluker's discipline and with refining his technical skills a little bit, he may have ended up turning out to be a better prospect. But yeah, as far as the reach goes, that's exactly what I thought of when I was thinking of this morning, was those old DJ Fluker memories of us reaching and not playing the board correctly the way that it should have been done.
Fair. Okay, for folks who are just tuning in, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, this episode is for you only. So we want to get as much engagement, as many questions and topics as we can in here. Next question, Jake, from Ross Ackerman. Favorite third round wide receiver? We hear everybody talking about the Jameson Williams, talking about the Treylon Burks, talking about the Jahan Dodsons, talking about the Garrett Wilsons, the Chris Olaves, which we'll get to Chris Olave in a bit here later on. No one is as much talking about day 3. You even hear like Cal Austin, Sky Moore in kind of the day 2.
Day 2. Yeah, there you go.
Day 3. Hidden gems, diamond in the roughs, if you will. Who are some of your favorite third round or day 3 wide receivers?
It's kind of, in this case, if I'm reading this correctly from this question, it's day 2, but in the third round, as far as the Chargers possibly passing on a wide receiver in the first round and then coming back around to it on the third round, depending on who it is that they take. But it's all kind of circumstantial because everybody has all these different rankings for this wide receiver group. And yes, it's deep. And especially for the Chargers, they're in a good benefit from the standpoint that really what they're trying to get is speed and yak, which thankfully there's plenty of to get in this draft. You're going after a wide receiver 3, not necessarily a wide receiver 1, which obviously those are going to be coveted at the top of this draft. But Dan, we've talked about this through our positional breakdowns. And Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, a John Mechie maybe who falls down there in the third round. Personally, I think Sky Moore has the biggest chance of anybody, along with Jahan Dotson. Do not be surprised.
Jahan Dotson is not falling. Get out of here.
No, I'm not saying that. I said don't be surprised if either Jahan Dotson or Sky Moore end up being first-round picks. And don't even be surprised if you end up seeing at least 6 wide receivers go off the board. That should be the over-under number, and it may actually pound the over if certain teams aren't able to move up for their guys and they just take whoever falls to them. But yes, so those are some of the guys in the third. Hell, Dan, some of the guys that I said is they may not even be there in the third round. Bo Melton's another one that I really like that we talked about that actually through our initial rankings, we didn't even have on there, Dan. It was just after the combine hit, but we did talk about it in our honorable mentions. And since I've gotten a chance to go back and watch a lot of film on him, I really like what I saw from him. So probably a better, more realistic option for Bo Melton to possibly be there at day 3 with the other 2 possibly being gone, or day 3, round 3 with the other 2 possibly being gone before then. But yeah, those are just a couple. Who do you got?
I really like Alec Pierce. I've seen people kind of sleep on him, and I'm like, he's going to be good, man. He's a big body wide receiver. He kind of has just a very fluid skill set. A couple guys that I probably would love to see, and I'm going to go kind of more towards kind of day 3 versus round 3. I don't know where Wan'Dale Robinson's going to go. I think that's going to be like a fringe day 2, day 3 pick, if I had to guess. Khalil Shakir out of Boise State. I don't know if people have had a chance to see him, but I love what he does. Very under the radar guy. He's just going to be a quality wide receiver. Jalen Tolbert, I like. Reggie Robertson, I like a lot. Out of SMU, he was fun for me. You're not going to see Christian Watson fall that far. It's just not happening.
Surprised you have not talked about your boy David Bell yet.
I love David Bell, but I don't love David Bell for the Chargers, which we talked about.
Sorry, I had to plug that one.
You had to go there, didn't you? The one question I did have, though, we talked about like the Chargers needing speed and yak and all that stuff. Does DeAndre Carter signing, does it change or affect your outlook in terms of what we should be looking for?
No. DeAndre Carter signing was specifically to, and yes, I think that he can add a little bit more as possibly being used in the offense the way he was used in Washington. They were, progressively bringing him along and giving him a lot of, or not a lot, but progressively giving him some offensive snaps outside of his kick returner duties. But this was strictly a move, first and foremost, to get younger at the kick returner position. As much as I loved watching Andre Roberts and what he brought to our kicking game, and even at his age and even at the speed that he still have, this is a progressive move for the Chargers. You get a guy who is I think he's 5 years younger than Andre Roberts is, and you bring him in, and if you listen to his press conference today, it sounds like, Dan, he even had a good shot to go back to Washington, but he actually chose to end up signing with the Chargers. So that'll be an interesting move. I don't think it impedes anything as far as what the Chargers need as far as that speed and that yak aspect. But I'd be interested to ultimately see if they end up sprinkling him in on some offensive snaps. I have no idea where, because if the Chargers do end up getting a wide receiver, they're just going to be ridiculously deep with a group of Allen, Williams, Palmer, fill in your name of the draft prospect receiver, and of course Jalen Guyton.
Question that came in. We're going to get to some of the other receivers. There's a lot of receivers in here that people are talking about going to get, whether it's Tolbert, Bo Melton, Danny Gray, which you talked about Danny Gray earlier as a kind of a sleeper on a wide receiver episode. Thoughts on Olave at 17?
God, you hated this. You hated this when PFF was doing their dueling mock drafts earlier.
And that actually came up in one
pick.
That came up in one of the questions we got here as well, was the PFF question. For those who did not see, Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers and Austin Gale, and I forget Austin's co-host, Mike Renner, I believe, did a dueling mock draft today for both of their episodes, or for both their podcasts, excuse me. And both of them, the way the board fell, ended up going with a 1, Chris Olave. So, Jake, what say you?
Dan, the way that the board fell in that particular scenario, you had Trevor Penning on the board and you had Chris Olave. I think you know my feelings on Trevor Penning as far as draft value goes right now. But again, I know that you have been here just as far as on the fence. Not to say that, not for me saying that you're saying that Chris Olave is not a good receiver. You just, for some reason, have been very hesitant to like him for the Chargers. But what I'm telling you again, look at what the Chargers need and look how he fits in the offense. And I think that it actually ends up being a great fit. And as far as value goes, Dan, that would be the right way to play the board. If you were not able to get a trade down scenario, if you weren't thinking about going the interior offensive line at that standpoint, I would take Chris Olave over Trevor Penning right now. Yes, I would.
Okay. All right, so I feel like you're doing this thing where you're trying to pin me into a corner that no one actually put me in. So, question.
I'm not trying to pin you into a corner. I mean, you yourself were saying on Twitter today that you might as well start, preparing yourself for Chris Olave to potentially be the pick for the Chargers at 17.
Yes. So, for the record, I've never said Chris Olave is not going to be a good NFL wide receiver. I have always said I believe that it is a stretch, a reach at 17. And I stand by that. I still believe that Chris Olave, historically, I don't necessarily think would be a number 17 overall pick in the NFL draft. And for the Chargers specifically, I don't know how much I would value. And and again, that's why I'm not the GM, but drafting a wide receiver 3 at 17 seems a little rich. But if the Chargers believe that wide receiver, quote unquote, 3 can develop into a wide receiver 2 or a 1, or they don't really see 1, 2, 3, they just see wide receivers and they can spread it out however they want. Okay. But I just look at the sheer impact and how many times he's going to be on the field compared to some of the other guys that we could go after. The Chargers are going to have 3 receiver sets often, but how many times are they going to have 2 receiver sets and it's not Keenan Allen and Mike Williams? So how many snaps is he going to get? Versus if you're to go get someone it doesn't have to be Trevor Penning. Insert whatever offensive tackle that you want, or insert defensive line. insert interior offensive line, insert corner. They'll play all of those. Will play more snaps than him. So I like Olave, but I also have my hesitancies around, like, would he be the most value for us immediately at 17? The Chargers offense was a top 5 offense last year, period, with the shortcomings it had. Yes, it could obviously get better. Yes, we would like to see it better. Yes, we'd like to see it faster. But is that the thing that's going to lift this team? Was that the thing? Yes, everyone talks about, that was the thing the Chargers were missing last year. But, like, they were missing a lot last year.
Dan, again, if you just take it in this microcosm here, because how we got onto this was the difference between Trevor Penning and Chris Olave, whose value is more at 17. My answer is emphatically it's Chris Olave. Now, of course, that's only in this particular draft scenario. We have no idea how the board is going to look 2 weeks from now.
Real quick, you're saying who's the, like, if you had a big board, who's higher on your big board between Trevor Penning and Chris Olave?
That's yes. By the time 17 rolls around, yes, I would have Chris Olave higher than Trevor Penning in that circumstance. And I get it from an offensive line standpoint. The Chargers have a yawning chasm at their right tackle spot as far as need goes. Yes, offensive line makes perfect sense. So if
it's not Matt Filer.
If it's not Matt Filer, obviously the Chargers sound like they are prepared for a lot of different situations, possibly however it plays out. But that's my opinion on why I like to recoup an additional second-round pick, because whichever way you go with this first-round pick, and if you stay pat at 17, obviously fingers crossed that they end up picking the right person. But outside of that, you better put your feet up, maybe light a fire, maybe even read a book, because it's going to take a minute just to get back to the Chargers making a selection in the 3rd round. So if you can do it where you can acquire some extra draft capital here and give yourself a little bit of flexibility so that you're not so pigeonholed into, say, 2 or 3 positions, and then depending on how the board falls, that you may end up into this type of situation where if you can't find a trade partner, then you ultimately make the mistake of reaching. Come on, man. Don't do that.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask a question. Okay, this is not poo-pooing anyone in particular, but Chargers, let's say they are at 17, and let's say, I don't know, making up some guys that are there, right? They could get Penning, Raymond, they could get Zion Johnson, they can get Olave, and they can get whoever else. Doesn't matter. And let's say they are looking at Olave. But then somehow, let's say the Chargers were able to get let's say Cal Austin, falls to round 3, which I don't even know if that would be quote unquote
unlikely, but
I think he'll go early round 3, but like the chances of him falling to the Chargers at 79, like that's very low. But like, if you're a Chargers fan, what is the difference in terms of like how excited you are, how much of an impact that they would make to this team between a Chris Olave, who again would be a 17th overall pick, and let's say a Christian Watson, or let's say a Calvin Austin, or let's say any insert speed guy, let's say Danny Gray out of SMU, like insert any one of those guys that everyone talks about that is super excited about. Like, for what the Chargers are needing, and for this offense, for this year, what difference of an impact, honestly, would all those receivers give?
But first of all, just to have a little bit of logic in your argument there, Dan, it's kind of like what everybody's saying as far as trying to figure out what the Saints' motive was in executing the trade that netted them an extra first-round pick when they did it. 3.5? It got almost a month before the draft ended up happening. And the kicker there is that if they're targeting, which a lot of rumors that they have the same needs, obviously, as the Chargers, offensive lineman or wide receiver, you're not even going to know who's going to be able to be there out on the board at that particular point in time, which is why it's leading a lot of people to believe that they're going to package that and move up to possibly a quarterback or one of the top offensive linemen. It's the same type of situation for the Chargers, Dan. If it is a situation because you do not have a second round pick to possibly come around and get one of these guys, if your guy is there and that guy just so happens to be Chris Olave, you take him there because you can't guarantee that any of these guys that you just named off are going to make it that far. And I say that, Dan, specifically from the standpoint of watch how many wide receivers are going to go on the first night. The wide receiver position after 17 is going to be a position that is largely coveted. If it's not coveted enough before 17, teams like New England, Dallas, Arizona, obviously the Packers, the Chiefs, all those teams are going to want to target someone. If they don't end up trading up for one and they end up staying where they're at, you're going to see some wide receivers fly off this board late. Some guys that probably had a early second round grade could go in the first. And because of that, Dan, that's then going to trickle over into the second round. And then you're going to be forced to sit there in front of your television and watch all of these other wide receivers that we've been naming just go off the board before the Chargers end up picking at 79, and just hope to God that one of them falls. So if you have the opportunity to get your guy, and if in this case for the Chargers, not saying that Chris Olave is my guy, but if he's their guy, why would you not pull the trigger there? That's the logic that I have.
I agree. I mean, I agree in the logic, but I still would ask them the question, what would the impact difference be between getting him at 17 and those other guys at insert round or pick? It just, that's the hesitancy I have. Doesn't mean I'm right, but that, again, I would love to be wrong, and I would love for him to turn into the next faster Keenan Allen, faster Devontae Adams. Like, yes, please, I'll gladly come on here and tell everyone, like, oh, thank God I'm wrong. Please happen. But, like, I'm also trying to be honest. All right, next question, Jake. I know this is something that flies right in the face, and you'd probably throw up all over me, most likely, or someone at your draft party. We always talk about your pound on the table for trading down. Let's talk trade up. Somebody asked the question here about trading up for Derek Stingley. So, two-part question. Okay. First part question. Is there anybody in this class that if you were Tom Telesco, you would trade up to go get? I know you're always against trading up, but is there one here you do it?
I mean, Stingley would probably be on the short list of players that you would do that for. Either that or possibly one of the top offensive linemen. If you knew for a fact that there was no chance of Charles Cross falling to 17 and you thought that that was an absolutely coveted need for you, that you had to fill that right tackle spot, then that may be the case that you go up and get one of these guys. But it's a very short list. And to answer the second question, if Khalil Mack was not traded, traded for, if the Chargers did not give up a second round pick for Khalil Mack, I could see trading up as a good possibility for the Chargers in this circumstance, because Tom Telesco has unfortunately done it in certain scenarios. And when he's done it, it hasn't played out that well for him thus far, which is why I'm so against it. But if they were not already down second round draft capital, I could see this as a faint possibility. But because they don't have a second round pick in this scenario, I just don't see the likelihood of that taking place. Stingley is a phenomenal player. If for some reason he fell to us at 17, that would definitely be one of those Derwin James type of moments. But I just can't see it. I can't see that taking place.
I don't. It's funny because it depends. This is tough because I think the Chargers are obviously in win now mode. And if that's the case, and they can pull a Rams and just say, like, you know what, F them picks, I'll just go ahead and, take all of my draft picks and funnel them all to this year and go get either trade up for another first round draft pick or trade for their player, whatever. I could see them saying, you know what, if we're one offensive tackle away from being elite and Charles Cross is still there with, at the Vikings pick, I think they're picking like 11th or 12th. Like, if they did it, I don't know if I would do it, but I would be like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. And I wouldn't hate it. There's no way you could hate that pick. There's no way. Trading up for a guy like Stingley is a much bigger risk. And I think Stingley has a incredible ceiling. And the guy has elite traits, elite skill set. Like, the dude is a beast. But there is more risk there. He's not as, in my opinion, surefire as a Charles Cross would be in pass protection. And so going corner with already having J.C. Jackson, already having Asante Samuel Jr., already having Mike Davis, which people are either low on or don't know what he's going to be in the future for the Chargers, already having a secondary that's like much better, and adding to that advantage or to that improved secondary already, like, I guess, but when you have a gaping hole somewhere else, it's just hard for me to envision that. So to answer the question, the only thing that if it was me, if I'm the Chargers, I can see a trade up for either the offensive tackle that you wanted. I could see it for possibly the Jordan Davis, which I know some people don't even want him in the first round, but like I do. And I could see it for the wide receiver that they want. That's not the one we've already talked about. Otherwise, no, I really don't see it.
Oh, hey, kiddo. How was the hill?
Educational.
Oh, learn a new trick?
Yeah, the trick to a happy, fulfilling life, maybe. I learned that mountain air unleashes my inner peace. And rip and pow, well, the whole crew's all, yoo! Induces spontaneous joy.
Okay, that's nice.
The Icon Pass lets you do you at 50 destinations worldwide from $249 adult. Drop in for next winter now and save at iconpass.com.
Very few things are impossible.
What do you mean?
Most of the things that people think are impossible aren't.
I know something that's impossible.
Okay, tell it.
Having a big event and not creating a pile of junk.
Okay, but it's easily fixable.
Oh, I get it. All I have to do is point.
All you have to do is point.
Junk from a party.
A celebration.
A family reunion.
Or a holiday.
1-800-GOT-JUNK can make it disappear.
Junk from a wedding reception.
A construction project.
Or from moving in.
Or moving out.
Of a new place.
We make junk disappear.
All you have to do is point.
When our clean, shiny truck arrives,
everyone starts clapping.
Because everyone is happy.
And that's why they all start dancing.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Or visit 1-800-GOTJUNK.com.
I just don't. There's a lot of class. I mean, in my opinion, for the most part, you trade up for quarterback. Unless you have a quarterback, and you trade up for the guy to protect him. That's kind of the way I see it. Is there anyone that you trade up for other than maybe an offensive tackle?
No. But again, that's because I'm so against trading up. You know me. And look, for trading up for some people works. Until I see it actually benefit Tom Telesco and this team, I may flip gears here. But in this circumstance, with the Chargers not having a second-round pick, I just can't see them giving away extra draft capital, even if it's extra draft capital next year. Would they possibly do it? Would Tom Telesco do it? Yes. I just can't see it for the fact that they're already down one of their high-value draft picks, that it would take place. I mean, Dan, the trades that have taken place under Tom Telesco's watch, Manti Te'o, Melvin Gordon, Kenneth Murray.
Stop it.
Stop it. I don't want to see another trade up because he's 0 for 3 in that circumstance. You don't want to see it.
No. Jake, so someone comes in here with a question or with a comment. Latest Chargers post 22 minutes ago gives me chills. Do you have any idea?
Elaborate, please.
We're live here. Do you have any idea what that is about?
I have no idea what that is about.
Okay,
we've been on the air now for. Please, if you can, Ross, if you can get that to us, send it.
Full send. All right, Jake. Other topics we've got here. It's not necessarily a topic, but we had a voicemail that came in. Let me see if I can pull it up. Give me one moment here. We're live, guys.
Make sure the audio is all in check there, Dan, when you do this.
Yes, I'm trying. There we go. Okay, here we go. Start this thing over.
It's been a long time since we activated the Chargers Unleashed hotline.
From the 559 area code. Let's see what they have to say.
Let's go, San Diego Chargers. Been a fan since yay high, you don't know. Man, we're gonna go into the off season. We ain't done yet. We're still gonna go sign key free agents. Then after that, we're gonna go into the draft Jordan Davis from Georgia. Then after that, we'll be set to go. Let's get it. Bolt up.
Calling a shot.
Dan, why don't we just call the show right now? I mean,
are we done?
He knows everything. He knows everything we're going to do. We're going to go out. We're going to sign another key free agent. We're going to go sign to select Jordan Davis in the first round of the draft. And you can just, fire up your favorite cigar, put your feet up. Again, like I said, go read a book, whatever. Hey, that's fantastic. If that's how it's going to fall, damn.
If that's how it falls, yes, I'm taking it 100%. Apologies for the FaceTime.
Is that someone calling the Chargers Unleashed hotline again all of a sudden?
No, that'd be weird if I answered a FaceTime from somebody on the Chargers Unleashed hotline.
That'd be hilarious.
So Jordan Davis, I think it's funny. We've all seen it as kind of the time has gone on. There was the wave that has kind of gone in and out for different players, right? There was the wave of Jordan Davis. Well, first there was the wave of Devontae Wyatt. And then there was the wave of a Treylon Burks for a while. And then it kind of changed to Jordan Davis combine. And then it kind of went to Jameson Williams, cray-cray. And then you heard Trey McDuffie went wild for a while for the Chargers. You heard all kinds of waves kind of going in and out. And I think what's important for all of us to recognize and to realize and to remember is we're in the middle of smoke season right now, and everyone included in the media, you kind of get paid for content. That's how it works. And there's only so much you can say about the same thing over and over and over again. So people will just say random shit because hey, maybe it'll work. And then if that one crazy mock draft that has Jordan Davis going number 29 were to happen, that guy's a genius. But so come on, chill. But also try to drown out the noise as much as you can, which I know is impossible. We all fall victim of it sometimes. But Jake, for example, I go back to our wide receiver episode that we had 6 weeks ago. It feels like 6 months ago, but 6 weeks ago. And I have Treylon Burks as wide receiver 1. And I think I had Garrett Wilson as wide receiver 2. Or no, I think I had Garrett Wilson wide receiver 3, Jameson Williams number 2. And people thought I was crazy. But then there are also people that thought I was dead on with Treylon Burks. And all of a sudden, Treylon Burks is now, no one's even talking about him. Late first round draft pick, which I find insanity. The guy could easily turn into he's not going to be Deebo Samuel. But he has that archetype where he could do everything on the field for an offense. And so as much as possible, I guess my request is drown out the noise, but also go with your gut and your own eyes. There are some guys that you're hearing people talk about where you're no way. There's no way. And some of the guys we talked about, to be honest, are those guys to me. But everybody just PSA, just trust your gut and actually watch some tape before you start talking about all these guys. Jake, you're up. What's next?
Oh, I thought you were feeding all of this right now, Dan. Honestly, I was just listening to everything that you were saying right there about the wide receivers. I was just ready for the next shot. Who's got it?
Okay, so we've got, well, first off, some friends have come in. Charger Chat podcast has come in. Friends of the show. Let's go. Hey, guys, welcome. We'll have to do a collaboration soon with them, Jake. I think we got to do something, right?
We got to do something. It's been a minute since we've done it with the boys. Miss those guys very much.
Wide receiver talk, Wilson or Olave?
I mean, hell, I would rather have Wilson if he's on the board at 17 over Olave, no question. But much like Jordan Davis, he's not going to be there on the board at 17. So this is the penalty that the Chargers have given themselves by winning games, essentially putting themselves at 17. And this is the type of headache that they're going to have to deal with in watching 16 players go before them and a lot of this high talent go off and hope that one of them ends up being on the board at 17 that they're going to covet.
We're rounding out kind of the live Q&A here. So if you have any other questions, comments, discussion topics, let us know in the comments. We'll go ahead and get them in rapid fire here. Would you rather have Olave or Drake London for the Chargers?
See, this is an interesting one because I rank London higher than Olave, but in the Chargers, like overall, as far as the wide receivers goes, but in the Chargers offense, Olave is probably a better fit. And I agree. Drake London is still kind of being a little bit underrated. I think he started to pick up some steam now that it's much like the Jameson Williams situation. Now that those signs are coming on that they're going to be healthy by the time training camp goes along, their draft stock is starting to come right back up on the rise. Drake London's going to be a fantastic wide receiver in the NFL. Just as it relates to our fit in our offense, Dan, again, and this is why I say this as far as value goes, Olave at 17 and the fit in the Chargers offense just makes sense in that circumstance. I would love to have London, but if you didn't have a Mike Williams or a Keenan Allen, I think that he would be a better fit. Fantastic wide receiver. Definitely up there with the Wilsons and the Jameson Williams as far as my top three goes. But as far as the fit in the offense, Olave is going to fit better in my opinion.
Okay. Jake, off the dome, what are some of the saddest movies you've ever seen?
Saddest movies?
Yep, you'll see where I'm going. Saddest movies. Like Titanic is a really sad movie. Like Walk to Remember, The Notebook. Like, what are some sad movies?
God, dude. I mean, actually, what you consider sad movies, what I consider sad movies are completely different. But go on. Let's hear the point.
Shawshank Redemption. Okay, so you know what else is pretty sad?
Yes.
Okay. We've got Hefe Kansas City in here talking about his Chiefs on a Chargers podcast.
Isn't it almost 10 o'clock over there?
Shouldn't kids be asleep at this point? Saying Chargers will not win a Super Bowl until 2022. Acting as if his team has a chance this season to win a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. Like, one, why is he here? Two, is he okay? I really want to know. And three,
what? Thanks for coming on the show, dude. Appreciate it.
Again, I know I kind of like the fact that he's on the show. Like, I think he's learning a little bit about our team. So cool. Herbalist, why you come on, troll everything? And then Kapil comes in with a comment. I've been hearing Chiefs are the fourth in division this year from sources. Should we tell Hefe? I heard they traded Tyreek Hill and gave up. Should we tell him?
They definitely didn't give up. All right. Let's not be naive from the standpoint that we still have to go through them as our division rivals. Yes, they still have number 15. And yes, they're still going to be good. Let's not be naive in that circumstance. But you know what? Again, Hefe, thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it. Schindler's List or Shawshank Redemption or Shawshank? Which one's sadder?
Sadder? Dude, I mean, Schindler's List just tears at your heartstrings, man, with the subject matter of that. I mean, that's just you got to be in a certain mood to sit back and watch Schindler's List. It's as fantastic of a movie as it ended up being, like visually and storytelling, but you got to be in a mood to prepare yourself to watch that, dude. Those are just like some of those certain horror movies that I've watched that even sometimes get me based on the subject matter. I'm just like, dude, I just need a shower after watching some of these. But as far as sad goes, I'll take Schindler's List there.
Cool. All right, Hefe, thanks for coming in. Talk to you next time on the next Chargers Unleashed. Deuces to you as well. Question comes in, Jake. We have a question about running backs. We have not done running backs.
We haven't gotten to that. I'm hoping that we get a chance to do that positional breakdown as well as maybe get to the tight ends and the linebackers before then. So I know we're on crunch time here as far as the draft coming up very fast. But simple question. What round do the Chargers target a running back? I do not see the Chargers targeting a running back at least, and especially if they do not trade back to get extra draft capital to recoup that second round pick. I don't see them doing it before round 5. I just don't. I don't see them doing that. I think that's the ceiling for them if everything stays pat. If they end up requiring a second round pick, Dan, I'll elevate that one round and I'll say it's the 4th round, beginning of day 3. No question. But as it stands right now, I'll put the ceiling at round 5 for that conversation to start.
Okay, so I kind of go back and forth. I'm being completely honest. I don't necessarily know if I like it, but I've seen a lot of people like, oh, could you imagine the Chargers go like round 3 and like just get their dude, like a Breece Hall, or pick a running back that's one of the top. Like I know it would be a luxury pick. It'd be a luxury pick.
Yeah.
But like, let's say they get an offensive tackle and then they go and get some freak running back. Or they get, what's Delvin Cook's brother's name? I forget his name, but love him. Like, it'd be kind of cool. We've heard a lot of talk about like Austin Eckler needs a second running mate. And I know everyone talks like, oh, you can get running backs whenever. You can get running backs, whether it's in free agency, you can get them later in the draft or undrafted, and they only last several, whatever. Like, it hasn't worked for us recently. So
I get it, but I mean, hey, it's you've taken you've taken a running back in the late rounds these last couple of years. Larry Roundtree, Joshua Kelly. And yes, neither of them have ended up picking up that banner behind Austin Eckler for you. Justin Jackson, unfortunately, just hasn't been able to pan out as that number 2 guy, even in the times where he has flashed and looked good. Of course, health has been the biggest hurdle for him to overcome. So yes, you do need that. But given your other needs, like you said, Dan, it's a luxury pick. You still have Austin Eckler back there. So given your other needs, those are more pertinent to address earlier. Even if you're telling me that you only are going to have 2 draft selections before day 3 even begins, then I am definitely not spending one of those on a running back. You're not going to convince me otherwise.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I agree, but like, it's kind of enticing. I'm not going to lie. We've got a question here on Facebook, actually. From a Roger Anderson. And this has to do with kind of the fan turnout at SoFi. And he's curious and asks about whether or not we think, or if they think, or if we think that the players hear or are upset or have feelings about kind of the home fan situation in LA. And, obviously, like, I've been there, and going from game 1 home game of the Cowboys to like the last home game of the season, like complete night and day in terms of like the percentage of quote unquote away fans that were there for the Chargers game. I was at that Thursday night game for the Chiefs. I was at the Raiders game. I was at all of the home games last year. That Chiefs game at home that we ended up losing in overtime was by far the best home turnout I have seen this year to date. But the question is, like, do you think the team sees it? Do you think they're worried about it? Do you think they understand? Do you think it's an issue?
Yeah, I think enough time has passed here. I mean, honestly, and I get it. I've been a fan of this team going back to my wee age as well, since I could walk. But at the same time, we don't need to open up that can of worms again. It was an extremely unfortunate situation that happened. And there were mistakes made on both sides as far as ownership and as far as politics goes that got us to where we are today. I think the last person that it truly bothered, but he never really disclosed it that often, was Phillip Rivers.
I thought the same thing.
I think that he was the last player that it truly held a weight on him. LT was very vocal when everything ended up happening. Phillip wasn't as vocal, but I think internally that really got to him. But I think we're at a situation now where it's like, if the Chargers were still playing at StubHub, for example, and they were not in SoFi, we may be talking about something different. But no, I don't think that is something that any of these players are dwelling on now. It's a different age. Those players are different from the time that everything happened, and they've moved on.
You know, it's kind of wild. Little nugget. When I was at Radio Row, Jake, there's all kinds of players and stuff that are there. You saw Justin Herbert, you saw Josh Allen, you see insert all of the guys. Got a chance to interview and talk with Austin Eckler for a bit. And you forget like how long you've been a fan and like what years are. And I remember I was talking to him a little bit off camera and we were just kind of chatting it up. And I was telling him like, man, like, I've been a fan since the SD days. Like I got this like San Diego jersey with Chargers Unleashed on it and all kinds of stuff. And he was like, yeah, I mean, that's awesome. He's like, but I haven't even like, I wasn't even here when they were in San Diego. And I was like, huh. You forget how fast time flies. But like Eckler, who's now at this point is almost like a Chargers veteran, never had any ties to San Diego at all. And so imagine everyone after him could care less about the San Diego LA thing. So I agree. I do think the Chargers have noticed the fan turnout shift this last season. I think you heard a few of them talk about it last season, from the beginning of the season to the end. So no, I don't think it's an issue. William Escobar has a question here, Jake. What is the bigger need for the Chargers right now? DB or right tackle? All things considered. Matt Filer possibility, insert.
This is right tackle by a landslide, because right tackle has more of a value on keeping your franchise quarterback upright. And when you see the results of what happened when the Chargers had Storm Norton and the ebbs and flows, the ups and the downs, unfortunately, a little bit more of the downs that he had throughout last year, you have to shore that up. And if you can bookend a Rashawn Slater and a young tackle in this draft for the next decade to protect your franchise, that to me holds a hell of a lot more value than another DB. Now, I get it. Trent McDuffie, I'm a huge fan of in this draft. And that is a lot of, I just think that as far as an NFL player goes and someone that would fit perfectly into Staley's system, I would love to see Trent McDuffie in this defense. But that was also, I started thinking that before the Chargers got J.C. Jackson, and they're going to be reshaping their defensive secondary now, probably with Asante Samuel Jr. playing more in the slot. If you were listening to when Daniel Popper came on the NFL Stock Exchange, he said something that pricked up a lot of people's ears when he said, and these were his words, that he doesn't believe that the team is that high on Mike Davis, which maybe this is where this conversation is coming from. And if that's the case, we'll see how that ends up playing out. And this is especially just not far off from the Chargers giving him a contract extension. So I don't know. I just think if you're telling me right now, with the now only holding 2 picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft, you got to address that tackle position. And if you don't, you better get creative with it, and you better play the board right. That's all I got to say.
Okay, Jake, you ready for some hype? So I finally got eyes on the Instagram post.
Okay, let's hear it.
Release 30 seconds. I'm just going to play the audio for folks who have video. Go ahead and
30
go to
seconds.
Instagram. Check 30 seconds. That's all it is.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
All right, guys, here we go. Great to be around you guys. Fellas, it's been too long. 3 months and 8 days.
I see what this is.
I want you guys to think about this concept of a gym rat. And I want you guys to start thinking about that term, because you guys get paid to play football for a living. All right, in order to be good at it, you have to work at it. You have to work at it.
Okay. Gym rat's already speaking my language, dude. Damn. Dig it, man.
Brandon
That's
Staley.
God, don't you miss that? I mean, talk about a dude, whatever you want to say about his willingness to go for it on fourth down and maybe not the best decision makers that he had during his rookie coaching season. I just can't see how you don't get hyped up about something like that. Even going back to all the all-in episodes where he's in front of the players and talking to them. It's just like, dude, yeah. Like, I want to smash my face through a brick wall right now. God damn it.
Let's go.
Love it.
Oh, man. Get some sports. What's up, buddy? All right, so friend of the show, Matt, has said, Jim Rat was the emphasis for today's first team meeting. What's your energy level after watching today's glimpse of it? Live. And again, literally, I think he messaged this right as I was playing it. So I apologize. I wish I would have just listened to yours, but we all needed to hear
the
it.
level of hype has not diminished.
No,
that's for sure. So
no. But okay. You know what? I think this is one thing that is shifting. And we talk about culture a lot on this show and about the Chargers team last few years, especially.
Oh, hey, kiddo. How was the hill?
Educational.
Oh, learn a new trick?
Yeah, the trick to a happy, fulfilling life, maybe. I learned that mountain air unleashes my inner peace. And rip and pow while the whole crew's all, yoo! Induces spontaneous joy.
Okay, that's nice.
The Icon Pass lets you do you at 50 destinations worldwide from $249 adult. Drop in for next winter now and save at iconpass.com.
Hey, kiddo. How was the hill? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, that ripping pow induces spontaneous joy.
The Icon Pass lets you do you at 50 destinations worldwide from $249 adult. Drop in for next winter now and save at iconpass.com.
Look, there's a lot of things you could talk about the Chargers, but I think there's something to be said about this team, like the intensity throughout the offseason, and not just like on Sundays. And even on Sundays, sometimes people questioned it a bit, but like putting in the work consistently across the team and doing the hard stuff and kind of having that mindset, I think, if we're being honest, like I think was kind of lacking prior to Brandon Staley coming into this team. Like there was less of a sense of urgency. There was less of this like kill or be killed mindset that you're seeing now on this team, and you're seeing it from the top down. And to hear, it's to hear that from Brandon Staley, and to hear that's what he always has done. And we talk about the difference that it makes. And yes, the Chargers didn't make the playoffs last year. Sucked. They won 2 more games than the year before. Great. But everyone, including the team, players, coaching staff, GM, everyone, last year, more or less, record-wise, was a failure. But for how much that they changed year over year, from a culture perspective, from an identity perspective, you can't, I honestly do not remember seeing a team, an NFL team, change that much that quickly. Entire coaching staff changes. Entire philosophy changes. Entire defensive scheme changes. That just doesn't happen.
It's probably, obviously you can't grade that from a win-loss record because that was the unfortunate part about this last season. But, Dan, I get where you're going, because when you start looking at, go all the way back to, from when the Chargers were in their heyday in 2006, and they fired Marty Schottenheimer and they brought in Norv Turner, and the coaches that continued from that standpoint, the Mike McCoys, the Anthony Lynn's, obviously they all approached a head coaching position with the goal to be good, to take them to the playoffs, and to win a championship. But there was a mental philosophy as far as being leaders of men that unfortunately just did not translate with those locker rooms and those players. The funny part about it is here, and I have to bring this back because, we all talk about the killer be killed, the go for it on fourth down, we don't give a damn type of scenario. Remember when we were going through that the very first few weeks of the season, and we were actually perfect on fourth down conversions at that point. I think we were 5 for 5 or 6 for 7. I can't remember what the actual number of it was, but this I thought was hilarious. A couple weeks ago, if you were listening to, oh my gosh, why am I just totally blank on the show? But Keyshawn Johnson in the morning with Max Kellerman on ESPN, he was doing his rankings of his teams. And I can't remember exactly where it was as far as what number it goes, but he had the Saints ranked above the Chargers. And Max Kellerman, who's obviously a huge Justin Herbert fan, asked him point blank, said, Key, why do you have the Saints ranked above the Chargers? And Keyshawn Johnson's explanation for that was because he doesn't like the coaching and the positions that Brandon Staley put them in from those fourth down conversion scenarios. And he said that he can't go as far. He's not ready to believe that he's going to be able to get out of his own way to cost them games. But the funny part about it is that's a two-sided coin there, because if the Chargers didn't go for it in some of those fourth down scenarios, they'd have a worse record than what they had. As much as you want to say that Brandon Staley's fourth down decisions cost them the game, he equally as much won them certain games. So it's just a weird type of it's just a weird type of perspective, but more so, Dan, it's from a standpoint of belief and confidence, and especially with a young quarterback who is just turning out in his first 2 years in the NFL to be something special. And when you were coming in on day one and saying, I'm going to take the reins off you, we're going to just be able to expand the playbook, we're going to be able to do this. And even Herbert admitted when he first got Lombardi's playbook that it was obviously a lot more complex than what it was with Anthony Lynn. But that's the type of confidence that you instill, and it trickles from the top down. So yes, the Chargers have not had a philosophy like this since the days of Marty Schottenheimer. And how can you not help but be all about it?
It's pretty wild. And I think it's kind of funny. I think I remember us before last season started. There's all the hype about talent for talent. Who's the better quarterback, Justin Herbert or Phillip Rivers? And everyone was like, whoa, pump the brakes. He's a rookie, could be a fluke, who knows? Okay. Right now, I think Justin Herbert, talent-wise, on the field, is better than Phillip Rivers has ever been. I think there's more belief.
Accolades and seniority, hold that over your head. But as far as the athletic capabilities, what he's done in such a short period of time,
skill set,
I see where you're going.
Skill set. I think the Chargers are more confident in their quarterback winning a game for them than they ever were with Phillip Rivers. And that's no disrespect to Phillip Rivers, because I love Phillip Rivers. And I was a Phillip Rivers apologist when we saw all those interceptions kind of happening at the end of games. I'll take it every time. I love Phillip Rivers. But I think everyone can kind of allude to this and kind of resonate with me on this. There's a different feeling for me. And it was literally since the rookie year, at the end of games with Justin Herbert, parentheses, and Brandon Staley, than there were previous regimes. It's just a different feel. And whether that's aggressiveness, whether that's skill set, whether that's mentality, whether that's smarts, it seems like this team is now in it to win it. They're not in it to not lose it. They're in it to kind of go for the jugular when they can. So yes, in short, to wrap up kind of the whole, how hyped are we after that little Instagram post that the Chargers put, a lot of hyped. And part of that is because of what Brandon Staley's built. Part of that is because of this quarterback that we have now on a rookie deal, which we've talked about ad nauseum. And then apparently, for folks who do not get to see it live, in that video that the Chargers put out for hype, Justin Herbert apparently was amongst those in front doing the sprints. And if that's not the quarterback of your NFL team, like, sorry, but he's ours.
I think it'd be an insult for any NFL team if the quarterback wasn't out front doing wind sprints. I mean, come on, let's just. I mean, yeah, it's cool to see when it's your guy, but I mean, just in general, as far as football goes, you want your leader to be out in front. So.
Okay, but do you honestly think that? Well, one, do you honestly think that Tom Brady's even in the sprints? And two, if he was, do you see him being in front?
Well, no, because he's earned the right to never do another wind sprint in his entire life. And secondly, yes, if he made the choice to do it, yes, I actually see him being in front. I do. As much crap as I give number 12, and as much as I am, a closet despiser, yes, he would be, Dan.
The only way Tom Brady would be ahead doing sprints is if he paid all of his linemen and all of his special teams and all of his position players like a Rolex or like a nice steak dinner to make sure that for the gram he could be up front. There's no way.
Let's get back to some. Let's knock these last questions out in the next 5 minutes. Let's get back to the.
All right, fine. We are wrapping up. All right, Jake. All things on the table. All things.
Whatever you guys have, go ahead and send them in now. Brock Lesnar is on the show. Holy crap! Brock Lesnar is in the chat.
Shout outs from a quote unquote Brock Lesnar. All things considered, who do y'all think we get at 17 in the draft? Now, I know you're thinking, well, it depends on how the board fell. You're thinking, if we don't trade down, like all things considered, what are you predicting the Chargers do at 17?
It is.
For folks listening, I'll give you a chance, Jake. For folks listening, watching, put up your predictions. If you're right, we'll post them. We'll do something for you. Who do the Chargers get at 17? Jake, go ahead.
Dan, you're not going to like my answer, and I'm not actually even going to. I know I'm not even going to name a player here, but it's hard for me to see how the board goes and then measures that for need. And given the fact that the Chargers haven't traded down in what is almost 2 decades essentially now, I could see them reaching for a certain player and not working the board correctly. And given who may still be on the board at that point in time, it just may be a huge mistake. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, hold on. There's a lot there. It's a lot of usually it's like sunshine, and now
there's a difference between what you're asking me, Dan. Who do I think they're going to get, and who do I want them to get?
Who do you think they are going to get?
I'll tell you 6 or 7 different guys that I would want them to get.
Who do you think they will get? Prediction.
I think it will be an offensive tackle, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be an offensive tackle that anybody wants at that point in time.
So is it outside of Cross?
Well, let me back that up. Not that anybody doesn't want, but maybe about 50% of people that don't want this.
Okay, and honestly, I was being kind when I said 50% of the people. I don't think I have seen a player that is disliked more than Trevor Penning by a fan base. Like Justin Herbert, I think, there was like a 50-50 split. That's probably more than that. But they weren't against Justin Herbert as a person. They were questioning whether or not he has a high ceiling, whatever. But I don't remember there being that many people who are like, no. No.
Dan, when you've been looking for a serviceable right tackle for this long, essentially again, since the Jeremy Clary days, in reality, you want somebody who's going to stick like the guy who you hit a home run on last year. That's what you want.
Okay, so I haven't got a chance to think about this. All right, so who do the Chargers pick at 17? Who do I predict? So I'm going to answer this, think about this live. I don't see the Chargers reaching. I don't see them being passive, given their new coaching staff and given what they've done so far in free agency. So I do see them being aggressive. So in my eyes, I think they are going to go for someone who can make an immediate impact day one.
God, you'd hope that they would do that.
In a skill,
we'd
but,
always hope
but in a position that they can make skill and impact players throughout the game. And so I think they're looking for a starter. I think they're looking for someone who can change the game. And so pipe dream scenario would be Davis, Cross, Williams. Pipe dream. I think those are three like game changers
in that order.
If they're available, one of those three.
Okay.
If any of those are available, you'll be praying and running it in. But if I'm being realistic, what will the Chargers do? I think it's going to go one of two ways. One of which I'm going to have to process. The other which would be a corner. I think that they're going to go like a Trent McDuffie type, which I think would be a solid pickup for the Chargers. I think that makes their defense better immediately. Or they go wide receiver. I think it's one of those two positions.
I believe it too. I'm just thinking in my head the way that the board is going to fall. I'm totally there with your level. It should be an offensive tackle or a wide receiver is who they should select with their first pick.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a bad feeling, and again, based off of how I woke up today and what I started thinking of as far as bad memories goes, and reaching for offensive tackles brought me back to 2013. I am the wrong person to ask this question to right now. That is simple as that.
All right, guys, we are wrapping up our Q&A live show. Even in the chat, Jake, there's a whole bunch of Penning's great and a whole bunch of Penning's not great.
Look, let's just say hypothetically, just put this bet right now. If Penning ends up being the pick, am I going to be excited about it right off the bat? No, I won't be. But if Penning for some reason ends up being a fantastic right tackle right out the gate, I will shut the hell up and I will take back everything that I have said. I will definitely own up to my stuff. But I'll tell you right now, not going to be excited about it 10 days from now if that's ends up what happening, and based off of probably who's left, who is still on the board at that point in time.
But if they traded back for him in the middle to like the end of the first round, like cool.
That's a whole different conversation because you acquired second round draft capital back. But yes, let's knock out a few more of these.
All right. Let's see. Jake, there's a few things that I think are kind of interesting, but there's a lot of scenarios. You always pound the table for trading down. Okay. In the scenario, which there's been a few questions in here about trading up, trading down. In a trade down scenario, let's say you were trading down with some team end of first round, and you were somehow able to either get like obviously you swap late round first for your first, and either you got like a late second, early third round pick. What would your strategy then be? Like, what are you targeting end of first round that's different than 17?
You could probably be in a position, possibly at that point in time, Dan, if you're one of these people that believe that Sky Moore is worth a first-round pick, a Christian Watson, a Jahan Dotson, depending on where it is that you land in the back half of the first round, that you could target one of them. Outside of that, see what the offensive tackle or hell, even defensive tackle conversation. I keep saying that Travis Jones is not going to fall past the Buccaneers. I think it's at 27, I think is where they're at. I can't remember specifically what pick they're at, but I still believe that he's not going to fall past them. Hell, if you were in a position to trade back, get a second round pick, and take Travis Jones to fill in that interior of your defensive line, I would love that. Love that as far as that move goes.
We got some folks in here wanting to go for Travis Jones. I know you've been a big proponent of Travis Jones for seems like an eternity at this point. Do you think he's even going to last to the second round if we get a second round pick?
No. I truly do not believe he is going to last to the second round. I don't actually, if we're talking about some guys that aren't being talked about enough, I think because everybody's focused on the wide receivers and a lot of other different positions as far as what could happen with all the trade up, trade down scenarios, he's not being talked about enough as far as the type of impact that he can make for one of these late first round teams selecting him.
Got folks in here wanting Zion Johnson, which I think, honestly, I think Zion Johnson will be available after 17. Like, I think you could trade back and you could probably still get him, if we're being honest. All right, guys, we're wrapping this up. Apparently, Jake, you need to siphon some of the energy from the Charger chat, guys.
Man, what else is new? This is one of those times. Normally, this is the time of the season that I'm actually in a good mood. Normally, it's during the regular season when I have to watch what I watch, and of course, I have to go against Dan, battle his optimism, and bring him down to earth a little bit more. But he's not wrong. He's not wrong, because I know the type of positivity that the Chargers chat guys bring, and I absolutely love it. I could just listen to Wolldog doing, impressions for the better part of an hour and immediately perk myself up. So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll listen to that, and that'll put me in a much better mood.
Yep. No, I agree. When you're feeling down, just listen to impressions. All right, guys, we are going to close out this episode of Chargers Unleashed Live. Thank you guys so much for all of the questions and comments that you brought in. Shout out to everyone who has been in here participating in this one. It's been super fun. Again, if you have not already, go ahead and hit the subscribe, like button on Instagram, on YouTube, which is probably where you're following us. Or if you're on podcast, go ahead and hit the review, do whatever you want. You know what to do. Jake, I'm going to put you on a spot here. You can find the lovely Jake Hefner at Jake D. Hefner on Twitter. You find myself at Chargers Homer. Jake, who is your hope at 17? Real quick, 3 seconds.
It's a pipe dream scenario, but if for some reason Charles Cross or Jordan Davis were able to fall to the Chargers at 17, you run that pick up to the podium.
Give me Jamison Williams somehow, some way. If something happens and he could be there at 17, that's my guy. He's been my guy since day one. All right, guys, Chargers Unleashed. We will be up here pretty shortly, actually. We have some special guest stuff coming up and some episodes as we get more into the draft breakdowns. Jake, what's our next position we're doing?
We'll have to decide, man. We still have a few that we want to take care of. Since there's been a lot of talk, especially with the Kenneth Murray situation, and then, of course, everyone, including us, has been up in arms since Kaiser White is no longer on this roster. Let's get into the linebackers, because it'll be an interesting position to dissect. And as far as when they're going to target a linebacker, it's probably not going to be the first round, because if you literally took another off-ball linebacker twice in a 3-year span, something is wrong with who is executing that draft strategy. But that'll be an interesting position to break down, because I definitely think it's something that they're going to address. Even with Troy Reeder coming onto the team recently, I think that you're going to see a linebacker taken, possibly starting in round 3.
Solo man, last comment here, Jake. $100 says Kyer Elam is a Chargers pick.
First off, you're making Dan Wolkenstein extremely happy right now with this comment. Extremely happy. Dan will probably match your bet if he had this opportunity.
I will donate $100 to charity. The Chargers.
He would love for this scenario to happen. He would love for them to trade back and then select Kyer Elam. That would probably be Dan's dream scenario in that circumstance.
Amen. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. Let's go through some of these comments real quick. Ross Ackerman, thank you so much. We've got terrible names. Great stream, gentlemen. Thanks so much. People will be happy
to pronounce some of these player names, but you can't properly spell that out.
Pronounce his name. Yeah, dude, exactly.
I'm the wrong person to ask, because I can't even pronounce the players' names properly. So I have an out. I know I can't do it.
HH4 out here with some talk about Telesco having some bomb draft picks. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here soon as we discuss more about the Chargers, more about draft picks, and more players we'll be discussing with as we tune into the next episode of Chargers Unleashed. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you later. Adios!
The minute you lay your eyes on the all-new Toyota Tundra capstone, you'll know it was made to make a statement. With its 22-inch dark chrome alloy wheels made for turning heads. Carefully crafted two-tone leather trim seats made for pulling up in style. 12-speaker JBL premium audio made for turning up. Plus, power running boards made for stepping out on the town. The all-new Tundra capstone, made to make a statement. Toyota, let's go places. JBL is a registered trademark of Harman International Industries, Inc.
Did you know that with Xfinity Internet, you get fast and reliable speeds? Best of all, you could save up to $400 a year on your wireless bill when you add Xfinity Mobile. Can your internet do that?
Get Xfinity Internet for $19.99 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract. Plus, save hundreds on wireless when you also get Xfinity Mobile. Go online, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay and 63022. Restrictions apply. New Connect Internet customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra and subject to change. After term, regular rates apply. Compares pricing of top carriers. Xfinity Internet required.